of President Bongbong Marcos on his first full day in office. The Mass officiated by Manila Archbishop Jose Cardinal Advincula was also attended by Vice President Sara Duterte and other cabinet secretaries. Cardinal Advincula's call for the new administration: listen to the people who ask questions with empty stomachs. The President then administered the oath of his Foreign Affairs Chief, a longtime career diplomat. Enrique Manalo is current permanent representative to the United Nations and was acting Foreign Affairs Secretary under the Duterte administration for 2 months in 2017. Ambassador to the US Babe Romualdez says Manalo is expected to pursue the administration's independent foreign policy.
The independent foreign policy is more in reference to reaching out to major countries all over the world where we think is important for our relationship.
The new president, however, has yet to appoint secretaries for key departments. Among them are health, given the raging pandemic, and energy amid rising fuel prices.
I don't think there was a president, at least in recent memory, that was able to complete his cabinet right away.
President Marcos then attended the Air Force's 75th anniversary celebration at Clark Air Base in Pampanga, his first event with the military. The first family, meanwhile, has decided to stay at Bahay Pagbabago inside the Malacañang compound. This was also the residence of former President Rodrigo Duterte and late President Noynoy Aquino.
It's being renovated right now. In the meantime, they're still staying in another place.
The chief executive, meanwhile, may hold his first cabinet meeting sometime next week. With an unprecedented mandate, the nation expects much from the new president, as high prices of food and fuel are CNN Philippines.
Some foreign diplomats also paid courtesy calls on President Marcos. They are the Vice President of Vietnam, ministers from Brunei, Cambodia, India, a parliament member from Korea, a deputy minister from Laos, and a trade diplomat from the United Kingdom. President Marcos joins the celebration of the Philippine Air Force as it marks its 75th anniversary. It was his first event with the military. Our senior correspondent David Santos joins us live from Clark in Pampanga. David, what did the president say?
Well, Pia, one of President Marcos's first public functions since being sworn into office and essentially becoming the commander-in-chief of our armed forces is to be here in Clark, Pampanga to join in the Diamond Anniversary of the Air Force. President Marcos is joined by former President and Pampanga 2nd District Congresswoman Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. This is a significant occasion for the Air Force, which started off as the Philippine Constabulary Air Corps in 1930, before becoming the Philippine Air Force in 1947. In the 1950s to 1960s, the Air Force played a key role in making the Philippines as a military powerhouse in Southeast Asia. Now, in his speech tonight, Mr. Marcos praised the Air Force for its security missions to defend us as a sovereign state against internal and foreign threats, as well as its countless efforts to respond to natural and man-made disasters. The Air Force is critical for our nation's territorial defense, primarily to monitor our airspace against intrusions, but also the major military service expected to be the first responder against any aggression in any part of our territory. Mr. Marcos also vowing to continue the Air Force's modernization program initiated by previous administrations. There was supposed to be an aerial display composed of a high-speed opener and flyover showcasing some of the Air Force's most recent asset acquisitions, such as the FA-50 fighter jets, Super Tucano attack aircraft, and Black Hawk helicopters. This, however, had to be called off at the last minute due to bad weather. Now, President Marcos, just before we went on air, has left this venue here in Clark, but moments earlier, he had dinner with Congresswoman Arroyo, as well as with other defense and military officials. Pia.
It's David Santos there reporting. The Trade Department welcomes its new secretary, former University of the Philippines President Alfredo Pascual. Pascual formally assumes the post in a turnover ceremony earlier today. On top of his priorities, continues supporting micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. He says the country should develop local industries that impact food security. Pascual promises help for coconut, coffee, and cacao producers, as well as regional industries.
Our objective is to enable small businesses to grow and graduate from micro to small, from small to medium, from medium to large. We want to integrate them into the domestic and global value chains. Our country can be competitive, but we have to do it region by region. Everyone should progress and no one should be left behind.
Among other plans, Pascual mentioned improve the ease of doing business in the country, attract investments and expand exports, and review the agency's structure and processes. New Transportation Chief Jaime Bautista announces his priorities as he kicks off his first 100 days in office. At the leadership turnover in the agency, Bautista promised to provide accessible, affordable, comfortable, and safe transport service nationwide. Although he did not specify how, Bautista says under the Marcos presidency, the transport sector will become at par with global standards. Now, just a day after President Marcos's inauguration and weeks before the 19th Congress begins, a lawmaker files a resolution seeking a longer term for the president and vice president. The proposal is to amend the Constitution by extending the term of service from the current single term of 6 years to a 5-year term with possible re-election. Pampanga Representative Aurelio Don Gonzales Jr. has filed a resolution which also proposes that the president and the vice president shall be voted in tandem to encourage strong party system. Gonzales argues the current term to implement long-term programs and policies appears to be insufficient. Gonzales is also pushing to increase the current 3-year term of elected local officials and congressmen, excluding barangay leaders, to 5 years with a limit of only 2 consecutive terms. The Constitution currently allows them to have 3 consecutive terms. At the Senate Center, Alan Peter Cayetano says he will immediately file a bill that will grant a one-time 10,000 peso cash assistance to families amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Cayetano consistently lobbied for the 10K Ayuda bill as Taguig congressman, but it failed to be included in the Bayanihan 3 COVID-19 aid package. Aside from pushing it in the Senate, Cayetano also urged newly sworn-in Taguig Pateros representatives Ricardo Cruz Jr. and Maria Amparo Zamora to file the counterpart bill in the House of Representatives. The House and Senate will jointly open first regular session of the 19th Congress on July 25th. The Health Department sees another increase in COVID-19 cases. The daily average rose to 914 nationwide from June 24th to July 1st, 53% higher than the 599 infections the week before. The DOH flags Metro Manila and 89 other areas with rising cases, including Lucena City, Bohol, and Tawi-Tawi, now at moderate to critical risk. In Tawi-Tawi, 90% of COVID-19 beds are occupied as of June 30. Now, despite the situation, Joey Concepcion, former presidential advisor for entrepreneurship, urges incoming health officials not to raise the alert level, which will impact businesses.
That will really kill many MSMEs who have just taken new loans to refinance their debt. So we will really have to prevent alert levels from being raised.
Most areas in the country are under the lowest alert level 1. Next on Newsnight, today marks day 1 of another provisional GP fare hike as commuters begin paying for MRT rides again after 3 months. And former President Rodrigo Duterte and former Vice President Leni Robredo spend their first day out of office. We tell you what lies ahead for citizens Duterte and Robredo, only here on CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay. SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
rising fuel prices.
I don't think there was a president, at least in recent memory, no, that was able to complete his cabinet right away.
You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. Jeepney rides now cost at least 11 pesos nationwide, while some commuters believe this could help drivers amid soaring pump prices. A transport group says the provisional hike is not enough to keep jeepneys on the road. George Quiles with the details.
Some commuters were surprised to learn about the new fare increase. 11 pesos for traditional jeepneys and 13 pesos for the modern ones. Among them, Aida Espino of Cotabato, who is currently in Manila to process her papers for a job overseas. With a tight budget, Espino says the new fare hike is a burden, especially since there was already a 1 peso increase imposed last month.
Mahirap kasi sir, kasi lahat nagtaasan na. Sa hirap ng buhay, titiisin na lang.
Joy Salvador meanwhile says she understands the situation of the drivers who bear the brunt of soaring oil prices. However, she suggests that workers like her must also get pay hike in order to survive.
Alam ko, nag-generate na yung new minimum ngayon na around 570 ata. So, tumasa din siya at least 30 to 40 pesos. Pero hindi pa din yun makatarungan para sa lahat ng mga bilhin. So, especially yung mga bayarin, sobrang taas na talaga.
For jeepney driver Freddy Sabado, while he's thankful for a new round of provisional fare increase, it's still not enough for drivers to make a decent living. It was his birthday on Thursday, but instead of celebrating like he used to do, he just took a day off and stayed home.
Parang kulang pa rin po sa aming mga driver po yun, sir. Kasi tataas, bababaan ko rodo mga piso lang. Tapos pag bigla ng taas, mga 5 piso, 4 na piso, doon kami naririndi, sir.
For transport group Piston, Passing on the burden to commuters is not the solution to the problem. Instead, they are challenging the government to suspend the excise tax on oil so that all sectors consuming fuel will benefit.
Hindi naman ito yung magre-resolve sa patuloy na pagtaas nga ng presyo ng petrolyo dahil hindi lang naman ang mga driver ng public transport ang gumagamit. At siyempre, kapag tumataas nga yung presyo ng petrolyo, tumataas yung ating bilihin, yung ating mga pangangailangan sa ating tahanan.
There are still pending petitions for a 5 to 6 peso minimum fare increase for jeepneys. The LTFRB will hear these petitions on July 27th. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Rail commuters will also have to deal with more expenses. Page Javier reports MRT rides are no longer free beginning today.
It's back to reality for MRT3 passengers as the Libreng Sakay program comes to an end. No more free rides means commuters reviewing their already tight budget. The Duterte administration's program, which lasted for 3 months, ended June 30. MRT3 officials say the program benefited over 28 million passengers from March 28 to June 30. One of them is single mother Chini Gangoso, who commutes daily from Taft Avenue to her workplace near Shaw Boulevard.
Hirap na lang sa budget, siguro mga 1,800 din mahigit yung na-save ko sa loob ng 3 months. Siyempre, malaking tulong din yun sa akin. Imbis na ibayad ko sa MRT, nadadagdag ko dun sa padala sa anak ko.
Despite the additional expense, she would rather take the MRT instead of other modes of public transportation.
Kung walang choice, siyempre, magbabas. Yun. Pero sa akin, convenient MRT pa rin. No choice. May bayad o wala.
Senior citizen Maria Ana Jubilo shared her experience when she was asked to pay for a ride this morning.
Surprise ka kasi kumbaga sa dati, pagkuha mo ng ticket, bigay ka agad. Ngayon, naano ko na may bayad na nga pala. Sana matuloy pa rin. Malaking bagay kaya yun sa mga kagaya namin na nagbabayad everyday, nagko-commute.
Jubilo says she saved about 600 pesos per month because of the free rides. Some students we spoke to are divided on the Libreng Sakay program.
Namiss agad namin yung libre kasi medyo mataas kasi yung pamasahe. Malaking tulong kasi yung free transportation sa katulad sa amin ng mga estudyante pa lang.
Nawala yung convenience na parang dire-diretso na lang, tas wala nang iisipin na pamasahe. Pero naiintindihan naman kasi kailangan din para makabangon ulit yung ekonomiya natin.
Most passengers hope government can find the funding to revive the Libreng Sakay program. It remains unclear if President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will bring back the initiative. The Libreng Sakay program was implemented in March to help ease the burden of commuters amid the rising prices of fuel and basic goods. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
President Marcos has given the go signal to extend free bus rides on EDSA until December. A Libreng Sakay program will also be carried out for students using the MRT, LRT2, and PNR once in-person classes resume in August. Former President Rodrigo Duterte begins his life as a private citizen. Tristan Odalo gives us a look at Duterte's homecoming in the city of Davao yesterday and what's next for him after 6 years.
There are few things former President Rodrigo Duterte plans to do shortly after turning over the presidency to President Bongbong Marcos. Get 8 hours of sleep and spend quality time with his family, especially his grandchildren.
As any president, buhay pa ngayon, it's a killing job.
Duterte also looks forward to more motorcycle rides and catch up with his daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte.
Walang panahon. Busy sa kampanya. Ako naman, ako.
On Thursday from Malacanang, Duterte went to a shopping mall and spent time with his security personnel. He then proceeded to the NIYA Terminal 2 to board a commercial flight to Davao. Upon landing past 7 p.m., his plane was greeted with a water salute and cheers from passengers. From the airport, the Davaoenos also waited for Duterte's convoy as he made his way to a homecoming concert in the city. The proud son of Davao thanked his supporters for rallying with him as he cited some landmark laws, including the free college tuition and universal healthcare laws.
Pahinga muna. Kailangan niya magpahinga. A well-deserved rest po mula sa trabaho. Napakahirap po ako. Nakita ko talaga yung hirap ng trabaho the last 6 years. Salamat, Mr. President. Salamat, PRRD, sa iyong serbisyo para sa ating bayan.
CNN Philippines also visited his residence in Barangay Matina, Davao. Security remains tight in the area. The owner of one of Duterte's favorite carinderias is also excited to welcome him back as a private citizen. Even as a civilian, former President Duterte says that he is not closing his doors on the possibility of participating on discussions on issues that matter most to Filipinos. But for now, Citizen Duterte is on rest mode and he is happy that he's finally back home. In Davao City, Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
But a progressive group wants the former president to be held accountable for his so-called sins to the Filipino people. Bayan says that among the 30 supposed sins of Duterte were his bloody drug war, pandemic response, and massive government debt. Bayan also says it finds fault with him for the return of the Marcoses to Malacanang, former Senator Laila de Lima's detention, the Marawi siege in 2017, and the 2.5 years of martial law in Mindanao. Duterte faced potential scrutiny from the International Criminal Court. Its prosecutor, Karim Khan, said he would seek to reopen a probe into possible crimes against humanity committed during the drug war. Former Vice President Leni Robredo hits the ground running a day after stepping down from office. Robredo leads the launch of her Angat Buhay non-government organization, aiming to make it the biggest volunteer network in the country. Anjo Alimario has that and more about Robredo's first day as Citizen Leni.
Hindi man tayo nagtagumpay, hindi man tayo nagbogi, nagtagumpay pa din tayo.
She's now attorney Leni Robredo, but her commitment to help the poor and the powerless did not change. Robredo leads the kick-off of Angat Buhay NGO a day she left the office of the Vice President, a promise she kept when she addressed her supporters during her pasasalamat in May.
We really started something very, very special during the campaign. At hindi pwede na mapupunta sa wala yung ating naumpisahan.
Angat Buhay will focus on 4 advocacy areas: health, education, disaster relief and rehabilitation, and community engagement. Robredo says the group will come up with a nutrition and food security program in partnership with local governments.
Malaking problema natin ang stunting. Kapag nagkulang sa pagkain ang mga bata, maaga siyang mapapag-iwanan. At habang buhay niyang kakailanganang maghabol.
She also wants to convert community learning hubs open during pandemic into remedial centers to focus on reading and math.
Bakit ito ang gusto nating gawin? Kasi as we were working on our community learning hubs, merong isang napakalungkot na realization. Napakaraming pumupunta sa centers, ang iba mga grade 5, grade 6, non-readers pa.
The organization will also assist communities on rehabilitation and risk reduction and resiliency. Robredo says Angat Buhay will not set up local chapters. Instead, it will tap local groups to carry out programs.
Yung pinapaniwalaan natin na klase ng governance from the ground up, hindi yung dinidikta ng nasa taas yung gagawin sa nasa baba.
The Museo ng Pag-asa will soon open, she notes, which will house some of the artworks given to her during the campaign. Others are now part of the fundraising event where visitors can buy paintings from 1,000 to 10,000 pesos. Robredo says she's excited with what lies ahead of Angat Buhay, ready to keep the spirit of volunteerism alive. Anjali Mario, CNN Philippines.
Straight ahead, the NBA superstar Kevin Durant could part ways with his current team soon as multiple reports reveal he requested for a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. And a member of K-pop sensation BTS drops his first solo single. We'll have more after the break. Stay tuned.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni bay. SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni bay.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network. DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Anniversary celebration at Clark Air Base in Pampanga, his first event with the military. The first family, meanwhile, has decided to stay at Bahay Pagbabago inside the Malacanang compound. This was also the residence of former President Rodrigo Duterte and late President Noynoy Aquino.
It's being renovated right now. In the meantime, they're still staying in another place.
The chief executive, meanwhile, may hold his first cabinet meeting sometime next week. With an unprecedented mandate, the nation expects much from the new president, as high prices of food and fuel are now affecting ordinary households. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back. The biggest deal in NBA history could be keeping Nikola Jokic in the Denver Nuggets. News outlets like Stadium and The Athletic report say Jokic agrees to a $264 million Supermax contract extension with the team. The two-time MVP is also set to have a player option for the 2027 to 2028 season worth $60 million. And it may be the end of Kevin Durant's time in the Brooklyn Nets. The NBA website, citing multiple reports, says Durant requested a trade from Brooklyn. This comes just a few days after Kyrie Irving opted into his contract with the team for next season. Hip-hop meets rock and K-pop in BTS rapper J-Hope's new track. More is the first single off Hobi's solo album, Jack in the Box. The music video is also dropped today, racking up 3 million views in just the first hour of release. Fans can listen to the rest of the songs in Jack in the Box by July 15th. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.